Ekaniwaro, makadini ndini ganya matope. How are you all? It's lovely to see you and be with you to do some story time. My name is Ganya Matope, or else people call me by my first name, which is Tawona. And it's a pleasure to be here to share some stories. So, what do we need to get stories going? The story just doesn't happen by itself. So if you're watching this, you've got a bit of work to do. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to see if we are in the right physical form to get the story. So what I want you to do in your own house where you are, I want you to get up and run and touch the four walls in your room. Okay? Like I'm going to do now. How did you do? Great. And just shake, 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 listen up, listen up, listen up, listen up, listen up. And so, also, what's needed for stories is you need something that makes us know we are listening. Because stories are not about telling, stories are about listening is actually more important, because if the storyteller is telling the story and no one is listening, then the story is a bit pointless. So, listening is so important. So, are you ready to try something out for listening? Okay, here's a little test. So I'm going to start with the hosho. So what I do with the hosho, you copy with your hands, okay? So if I say, you go, and if I go, okay? So here's another one. Excellent. Okay, let's get the drum involved. Okay, and the last one. Great, if you can copy that with your hands, that is excellent. And so now, I am going to wear my storytelling cloth. So you can wear something that you feel takes you into the world of stories, because the world of stories is a world of magic and excitement and adventures. So this is my storytelling cloth, so I'm wearing it. So you can wear anything that you have that you think brings the magic of stories. It might be a piece of clothing, it might be a hat, it might be a wristband, I don't know what it is. So you wear that. And I've got my cloth on and I've got my nduku as well. So now we are going to draw the story, or invite the story to come into the room, okay? So I want you, wherever you are in your house, to look around and think, which corner of the room might the story be coming from? I have a window on this side, so I'm going to look over there and we're going to say, makarekare, okay? That's the word. So now I'm going to draw the story in and you're going to help me. You say makarekare, okay? We do it together. Okay, so poshi, piri, tatu, makarekare. Going to do that again, huh? Makarekare. One more time. Makarekare. Are you sensing the story in the room? I think the story is in the room. Let's play the story some music while the story settles in, because the story can't just rush into the room and start getting on with things. So I'm going to play some mbira music. Okay. So that was mbira. Okay, so I'm going to share two stories with you all. The first story is about Tsuru and Guru. Tsuru is the hare and Guru is the baboon. So when I start the story, I will say Paiva po, and you say Zefunde, to show that you're ready for the story. Because I can't push the story onto people who are not ready for the story. So if I say Paiva po, I think I heard someone saying Zefunde. Zefunde. Okay. So a long time ago, when rivers used to flow up mountains and owls had big long horns on their heads, and humans could hear what the animals were saying, what the birds were saying. Some of the things that humans used to understand birds saying. And it was also a time when humans could hear what the wind was whispering as it went by. It was during this time that these two very close characters happened to be in harvest time. So things were going very well. And so Tsuru, who is the hare, and Gudo, the baboon. Very close, as I said. And I will now use those names, and you need to remember who is who, okay? So, Tsuru and Gudo, they were very close, and they shared many wonderful times together. And so one day, Gudo, sitting with the family, suddenly saw one of the children from Tsuru's household arriving. And they welcomed the child and said, Tutambire, Tutambire, gave them some water to drink, gave the child some water to drink, and they said, how are you all? They did all the greetings, Makadi, Makadi, Tiripo, Makadi, Tiripo. And then the child said, Nasumga, the child will be holding one of these, because when you're sent with an important message, you have to carry one of these to show that you've been sent by the elders. So the child said, I've been sent by the family to invite you to a gathering that we're having, a feast. And Gudo and family were like, oh, Hekani. Remember that word we said at the beginning, the greeting, Hekani, but you said it as a celebration as well. They're like, Hekani, this is wonderful news. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And the young Tsuru went back to the family. So on the day that had been chosen for the gathering, Gudo and his family got ready to go to the feast. So now I should tell you about something that happens in Zimbabwe. In Zimbabwe, before the rains come, the grass goes very brittle because the sun is so hot. The sun is very hot and the grass goes brittle and dry and all discolored. And so what people do in the country, they burn that dry grass. They just put a bit of a flame and they fire guard, obviously, and they let the dry grass burn. It burns very quickly, like, and then it's all done, and then the new grass can shoot through. It's called rutra. This action of burning the grass. The whole activity is called rutra. Kupisa rutra. So the rutra, kupisa rutra is the action, but the rutra is what remains, the ash and everything that remains afterwards. And then when the rains come, they wash that away. So it was at such a time that they were throwing this feast. So Gudo and family took off to go to the party. And you all know how Gudo and his family, they move. They move on all fours. So off they went. Like this. And as they were nearing Tsuru's homestead, they were so excited. They're like, oh, we're nearly there, we're nearly there. They could hear all the, the voices and the music, everything that was going on. Then they could smell the food. Oh, they were so excited. And here they're walking. And as they approached Tsuru's homestead. Remember what I said about Rucha? Yeah. So they walked. They arrived, and Tsuru said, "Oh, Sekuru Gudo, Uncle Gudo. Welcome. And family." And then said, Sekuru, it's so good to welcome you, but only one thing. We need to check your hands, because we're all eating from the same plate. In Zimbabwe, if you're eating a traditional meal, we all eat from the same plate. So you wash your hands and you eat from the same plate. And so Tsuru said, "Sekuru, can I see your hands, please, before you can join us?" And Sekuru Gudo showed the hands. And what do you think was on the hands? It was all the ash and the soot from the Rucha. So Tsuru said, "Oh, Sekuru, it's fine. There's a little stream just down there, as you know. So if you go and wash your hands and you return and you can join the party, see you soon, Sekuru." And Gudo and his family said, "Perfect, let's go." So off they went. They went to the stream and they washed. They want to be quick because the party is going on without them. They want to be quick. They wash their hands. And then here they come back. How do they walk? Remember? Here they come back on all fours again. And the Tsuru said, "Hello, Seguru, you're back. Oh, let's just see if your hands are clean now." So it was a bit rude, if we're being honest. But anyway, this is how it went. And again, the whole family, good and family, raising their hands, and oh my goodness, the soot, and now they're sticking even more because their hands are wet from washing them. So, sorry, Sekuru, just go wash your hands and you'll be able to join the party. As soon as you are back, you can join the rest of us. And off Gudo went, and family, desperate each time. So this happened back and forth. Let's see your hands go and wash them. Let's see your hands go and wash them. Let's see your hands go and wash them. Until the food was finished. Until other guests were tired and were starting to leave. And then until there was no party left at all. And so it was a huge disappointment for Gudo and family. So they took off and went back home, heads down, feeling very sad, but not only sad, but hungry too. They had planned for this party. They were looking forward to all the lovely food. You can imagine all the lovely food you would eat at a party and drinks. They had nothing of the sort. And off they went, back to their own homestead. And then they consoled themselves. Whatever they did to comfort themselves, they did it. And they rested and thought about it deeply, what had happened to them. And so time went on, as time does. Time went on as time goes on. And then it was on a fine day that Tsuru and family were sitting and they saw a child from Gudo's family turning up. Mauya, tambire. Magadi. Tripo Magadi. Oh. They did all the greetings properly, respectfully. And then, remember, the young Gudo child has to hold one of these. They said, they knew. When Tsuru saw the child arriving, they said, there's an important message. And the child said, you are invited, the whole Tsuru family, to the Gudo family's home for a big feast on such and such a day. This was wonderful news. Tsuru and family were overjoyed. The child said, Tawona chagara, these are the farewells. Tonana is until we see each other again. So it's not goodbye as in you're gone. Tonana, until we see each other again. So this was fine. Now it was Tsuru's turn to get excited. So Tsuru and family got excited and they prepared for the party, for the feast. And on the day of the feast, when the feast day arrived, they took off. Excited, chatting, and just like Gudo had experienced with family, they had the sounds of the party, the voices, excited voices, conversations flying, music, everything. They could smell the food. Imagine your favorite food when it's cooking. Smelling that. They were so excited. So they quickened the pace. Like, this is gonna be great. And they arrived at Gudo's homestead, and they stood in the homestead and they looked around. They couldn't see anybody. Said, this is strange. They looked around, and Tsuru said, have we come on the wrong day? Is my uncle away somewhere? So Tsuru shouted, Sekuru Gudo! Uncle Gudo. And Uncle Gudo answered, Muzukuru Tsuru! Muzukuru is a niece or nephew, right? Muzukuru Tsuru! And the voice was coming from somewhere close, but they couldn't see anything. They looked around. Sekuru Gudo! Muzukuru Tsuru! They looked, eventually, it seemed to be coming from somewhere up. They looked up, and in the big Musasa tree that was in the middle of the homestead is where the voice was coming from. And the closer Tsuru family looked in the tree, it was not just Sekuru Gudo alone, but all the Gudo family were up there in different branches of the tree, having great conversations, sharing the food and playing music and enjoying. And Sekuru Gudo said, Tsuru, Muzukuru, well done for coming. Hekan. You just come up and join us. The party's already underway. Come and join us. Now I know you all know Tsuru. What are Tsuru's feet like? Yeah, imagine them trying to climb a tree. Gudo is well made for climbing the trees, but Tsuru is not very well made for climbing trees, doesn't have that grip. And so Tsuru and family are like, they can smell the food, they can feel the excitement of the party. They're like, we need to join this party. Scramble. Karamata. Koromoka. Karamata. Koromoka. Karamata. Koromoka. Climb. Slip. Climb. Slip. Karamata. Koromoka. Karamata. Koromoka. And the food is smelling so nice that they can hear the voices of excitable conversations going on there. They're so desperate to get up there in the party, and they tried hard. And even one time they'll seem like they're close to just grab a branch, but this went on. And Gudo said, Muzukuru, come Tsuru, come join us. We are missing you in this party. And so it continued. Karamata. Koromoka. Karamata. Koromoka. Imagine. Tsuru and family were eventually exhausted from this karamata, koromoka. And they gave up. So they left with their heads bowed, knowing what had just happened to them. They had been unable to get to the party. And sure enough, when they get home, they sit down, and once the anger and all the shouting and cursing of Gudo had stopped, one of the wise elders of Tsuru's family stood up and made everyone recognize that they had done something very, very terrible to the Gudo family by inviting them, and knowing they walk on all fours, and then inviting them and expecting their hands to be clean when they arrived, instead of getting them to wash their hands when they arrived there. And so that wisdom was shared, and the Tsuru family started contemplating how they had wronged their relatives. On the other side, whilst everyone was celebrating after the party, an elder from the Gudo family also stood up. And said to everybody, let's all gather and sit together and think about what has just happened here. So they looked at what had happened, Tsuru's family had treated them poorly, but they had also treated Tsuru's family poorly. So their lesson was, if someone has done something wrong, you don't have to do a wrong back to them. So both families were actually doing something that was not the best. So what it took was for them to gather together and finally have the best feast ever possible, with no one having to walk through the rutra, with no one having to climb a tree. They met on a common ground where everyone could attend. And that is our lesson. Let's do things on the common ground, everybody. And we say, Ndo pakaperera sarungano. Okay, that is the end of that story. Thank you for listening to that first story of Tsuru and Guru. And whilst we prepare for the second story to come in, we are going to just hear some more mbira music. That is the sound of mbira. And we can hear our second story now. So what I thought would be really nice is I've told you an ancient story, and now I will share with you a modern story. And I hope you like this story too. So let's say the person in our story is called, I'm going to look around the room here, and I can see, what can I see? Okay, I can see a little horse. So I'll say Biza. So let's say the person in our story is called Biza. That's just a name, okay? Just to find a name for this story. Because when you're telling these stories, you can put your own names in. It makes it more fun. That's just something which I like doing also. You can keep the original names, but you can change them. A story is a living being. It's not fixed. And each teller will tell it in their own way. So I'm inviting you, when you retell these stories to your friends, which I hope you'll do, you tell them in your own way, make them exciting to your own way that you enjoy. So let's say our character in this story is called Hachi. So, pineapple! Who remembers what to say? If you remember, you did very well. But it's Zepfunde. Zepfunde. So when I say pineapple, you say Zepfunde. Pineapple! Did I hear Zepfunde? Yebo. Pineapple, Hachi. Hachi was living in these modern times that we're in. But things were very difficult. There weren't many jobs going. And Hachi was looking and looking and looking and looking and searching for jobs. And the jobs just never came. Hachi tried everything. Filling in forms, going online, looking, but nothing was happening. And Hachi was getting very, very sad about this and feeling very low. Looking at, I don't have money, I don't have the income, I can't enjoy my life, I can't, I can't pay my bills, I can't do anything. So as time went on, Hachi started getting more and more anxious. More and more anxious. And then one day, Hachi was called for an interview. And Hachi went, hey, Khan. This was exciting. So Hachi went for the interview and sat in the interview and got asked all the questions and replied as best as the questions were coming. And so Hachi left feeling, you know how you feel after an interview? Those who've done an interview. You're not quite sure how you've done because you've not been told how you've done. You've just answered questions and the interviewing people have said, okay, thank you, we'll be in touch. So Hachi left with we'll be in touch ringing in the ears and went home and sat and waited and waited and waited, worrying that it was going to be one of those replies again. But it wasn't. Hachi had been told that the interview was a success. Well done, Hachi left around and celebrated. How would you celebrate if you got good news? In Dawa we say Ekani to celebrate in words, but some people celebrate by having their favorite meal. Some people celebrate by playing their favorite music. Some people celebrate by meeting friends. Whatever you think of what you would do. So Hachi did whatever was the celebratory thing, and then Hachi was given an address to say, Hachi, come to this address on Monday to start. So Hachi was so excited, and Hachi on the Monday went to the place on the address, looked around. Let's say the place was called, I'm going to steal a number from the clock here, 27. Number 27, Cloudy Drive, okay? Because it's cloudy outside. So the address said 27 Cloudy Drive. Can you see how you can make stories more exciting? I'm putting in that address by making it from a number on the clock and the clouds. And because I can see some cars going by, so it's 27 Cloudy Drive. That was the address. So, 27 Cloudy Drive. Looking around and then noticing that 27 Cloudy Drive was a zoo. A zoo? Hachi wasn't sure about this. So Hachi went to the entrance and said, excuse me, speaking to the people at the security at the gate, and said, excuse me, is this 27 Cloudy Drive? And they said, yes, you're at the right place. What are you here for? And said, oh, I'm here, I'm starting a job. Oh, great, I'll take you to the manager's office. Hachi got taken to the manager's office and sat down, and the manager saw Hachi and smiled, welcome, Mauya. And so they spoke for a bit and they said, oh, welcome, are you excited to be starting a job? And Hachi was like, yes, I'm ready to go. And the manager went into the next room, said, excuse me a moment, went into the next room and returned with a chimp suit. So Hachi drew back a little bit, a chimp suit. And the manager then went to explain that in the zoo, they had their favoriteest animal of the zoo was a chimp, a chimpanzee, who was called Rings. I'm going to say Rings because I can see a ring on the floor there. Okay. So Rings can't be around anymore. Something happened to Rings. And until they can see where the Rings will make it back, they can't afford not to have Rings. Entertaining the people who come, and everybody loves visit the zoo, almost comes for Rings alone. So they can't do without Rings. So Hachi's job was going to be putting on the chimp suit and pretending to be Rings until something was known about the future. Wow. You can imagine this was very difficult for Hachi to take on. And Hachi thought, wow, wow, wow. But remember, I said, times are hard. So Hachi thought, how bad can it be? I'm sure I can just put on this chimp suit and pretend to be a chimp for however long it needs to be. And besides, you start convincing yourself. And besides, no one can really see who it is behind that suit. So, hey, it's not too bad. So Hachi was like, yes, let's do it. Let's do it. So Hachi got the suit, went into the changing area and came out looking like rings, but not quite moving like rings. So still a bit stiff. So Hachi was taken into the pen, the enclosure where rings used to do all the many wonderful things. So there Hachi was left, and Hachi was finding a way through it, finding the way through it, and sort of, trying a little bit, clumsy at the beginning, not quite there, not quite confident. And then as time goes, some people stop and they interact, and Hachi was getting into it. It started feeling easier and easier as time went on. And as time went on, Hachi started relaxing a bit more, doing more actions that would suit what rings would do. And then Hachi got into it a bit too much. Leaping around, and just went that little bit too far. And then Hachi, just leaping about, and then Hachi leapt and kept going, 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 and landed in the neighboring enclosure. And guess who the enclosure belongs to? Okay. This was the enclosure for Shumba. Oh, those who know what Shumba is have already. Shumba is the lion. Hachi landed and looked the lion. The lion was a little distance over there. And Hachi looked at the lion looked at Hachi, and Hachi screamed, "My word!" I don't know what you would scream in your own words, but Hachi said, "My word!" Terrified, thinking, this is me. These are my last moments. The lion looked at Hachi and ran towards Hachi. And roared and grabbed Hachi like this. And Hachi screamed, "Oh my God!" And the lion, in the gap between the screams of Hachi, said, "Stop screaming! You'll get us fired." And that is the end of that story. Thank you so much for listening. I will say "Do pagapera sarungano" of that second story. I hope you have enjoyed these stories. And now I will play some mbira to get us out of the story zone into our day-to-day zone. Okay, thank you. So we had today with Hosho, with the shakers. Remember we used the shakers at the beginning. With Awangoma, with Ngoma the drum. You can hear the washer falling. With Ngoma the drum. With the Nduku. And we had the Mcheka, which is around my shoulders here. And of course, we had mbira. So another little piece of mbira. And then we will say Tonana, we'll say Ekana. Ebonke, Ekani. Ekani, thank you for listening. Ekani.